Hi, and welcome to episode 46 of the Give Me a Crown Knitting, Spinning and Bits and Pieces podcast. Today is Monday the 22nd of August 2016, and my name's Nina, also known as Give Me a Crown on Ravelry, Instagram, Pinterest, and it's also the name of my Etsy shop. I'd like to say a big hello to any new viewers out there, and welcome back to returning viewers. Thank you to those who sent congratulations through after last week's 1-year podiversary episode. They were very, very warmly received. I'm coming to you from a little village in the central west of New South Wales in Australia, and this week there will be no finished objects and no spinning, but there will be a couple of works in progress as well as some future planning for projects and then some thoughts about a future knit along. So I hope you enjoy the show. My first work in progress is my vanilla chow socks, and these are just a sort of slow going project, so I won't go too much into detail because I expect I'll have these finished next week. This is the second sock, and it's just a basic vanilla sock knit from a yarn called Chow. So I'm almost probably halfway through the foot, and then I'll get the toe on there, but nothing too spectacular about it, but I think they're coming up nicely, and these will make a great gift for my mum. I'll talk more about those next week once they're done. Hopefully they're going to be done. But my next work in progress is a new project. And this is something that I've been meaning to work on for a while. It's a project that I knit one shawl last year, probably in about September, I think, from memory. And I kind of came up with my own design, but I knitted out of a yarn that didn't really show off the design. So a few times I restarted the shawl in order to chart it and write it up sort of more legibly, and each time I sort of lost interest in it because it's a bit of a tricky thing to write up. But I'm knitting this shawl from this glorious yarn. So this is a singles yarn, absolutely beautiful colours. And this is from Skein Yarn. So I ordered this a few weeks ago now. It's it's probably a bit too small to read, but it's Uptown Sock. It's a 4-ply fingering weight yarn, 100% superwash merino. And I have to say that it is an absolute dream to work with. This singles yarn it's really cloud-like. It's incredibly soft, and it's super easy to knit with. I'm having absolutely no worries, no dramas, and I've knit a few other things out of singles yarn before, and I guess I kind of forgot about how absolutely amazing it is to work with. Now the shawl itself, I won't go into too much detail just at this point because I'm still writing up the pattern and knitting on it, but it's sort of coming out like this, and oops, sorry, hitting things. You can see that there's some texture going on in there, but isn't that just amazing? There's a really good distribution of colour in this yarn. I really like the amount of colour, how it's distributed, and just the level of saturation. I think is just it's definitely a beautiful dye job. So I'm really pleased with how this is working out. It's taking me a little bit of time to work on this just because I'm trying to figure out the best way to chart it, because this might be my first pattern that I put out there. I also have a hat pattern that I'm going to be working on over the next little while. So it's the hat, my Corridel beanie that I showed last week. I think it was last week. And time flies, but I'm just waiting on some yarn for that, so that might end up being the first one that I put out, because that one I think is going to be much easier to chart than what this one is. Oh, I love it. Love, love, love it. And this will end up being a gift for somebody after I finish knitting it up and taking photographs and all that, and trying to figure out how to actually get a pattern out there. So I will share more on that once I get more of the shawl complete. As for upcoming projects, a few people have been mentioning in the Give Me a Crown Ravelry group that they're interested in 2-colour knitting. So whether it be brioche knitting or Fair Isle or stranded knitting, that they're keen to give it a go. So I think it might be fun for the next knit along to be a 2-colour knit along or 2 yarn knit along sort of thing. So basically using two different yarns at once, because I don't really want to restrict it from being able to use a variegated with a solid, for instance, if that's what you want to try out. But then maybe some people want to try doing stranded knitting with more than 2 colours. So I'm up for feedback. Let me know if you're interested in just doing 2 colours and challenging yourself to try something with 2 colours, and that could be Fair Isle stranded knitting, intarsia, brioche, double knitting. It could just be stripes, it could be socks with 2 colours. I'd leave that up to you, but I'm thinking about starting the knit along on the 1st of September, so pop by the Ravelry group and give me your thoughts in this week's episode thread, and I'll get together some ideas, and then I'll be able to announce next week what the rules are for the next knit along. I expect it'll last 2 months, so yeah, it'd be interesting to know what you want to do. So one idea that I've had, because I've been going through my stash a little bit, is I have these two balls of Holsgarn Coast. These are some yarns that I picked up in Finland a few years back, and I picked them up at an amazing little yarn shop called Tititu. I knew I was going to stuff that up. Tititu. It's in the town of Jyväskylä. It's a beautiful little yarn shop, and this is a Danish yarn, and it's 55% merino wool and 45% cotton. So this is the Tawny Owl colourway, and this is the Kingfisher colourway. And I'd also bought 3 balls of the Holsgarn Super Soft, and I've knit a pullover out of that, but I thought that these, because of the cotton content, they might be nice for a sort of a basic summer top. I'm already thinking about summer because we've had some very warm days here recently. I've never knit with cotton, I don't think. I've crocheted with cotton, but I don't think I've actually knit anything with cotton. So considering it has 55% merino wool, it'll be interesting to see how it knits up. I know that the Super Soft, which is just a 100% wool, it's a little bit sticky to work with, and this kind of looks the same, but yeah, it definitely feels like it has some of that spinning oil in it that the Super Soft wool has. And I know that some people sort of wash these before they actually use them. I'm not going to. I didn't have any major dramas knitting with it as it was, but I'm thinking some kind of summer top, probably sleeveless because I've only got 100 grams, but the 3/4 length sleeve top that I knit last time used less than 3 but I don't know what their meterage was in comparison, so I'll do a bit of reading. But this is one idea that I have for a 2-colour project. It would just be stripes. I should be able to get it done within 2 months. So if anyone has actually knit with the Holzgarn Coast yarn before, I'd love to know. And then another project that I'm sort of thinking about doing, and this isn't to do with the 2-colour knit along, but just another project with summer around the corner. In my stash I found these. So these are 50-gram balls of Hot Socks cotton stretch sock and wool. So these are, I think the company is 4 Seasons, could be wrong. No, maybe it's Grundwolle. My German is hopeless. Ich weiß nicht. That's about all I can say. Meine Name ist Nina. Yes, I shouldn't butcher my German, should I? Apologies to any German viewers out there. So this I'm getting completely distracted. So this is a cotton yarn. So it has, if I can show it there, 41% cotton, 39% virgin wool superwash, and 13% polyamide. And it has a little bit of stretch to it. I'm not sure if it's going to show up, but it has just a tiny amount of stretch to it. And that was the reason why I bought these. These again were on a trip to Finland. I think it was the same trip. I bought these in Tampere in a little yarn shop that was sort of closing down at the time, and I was just after some interesting kind of yarns that I hadn't tried before, so the lady there recommended these. I thought that these could be good for some shorty socks. I have no idea how it's actually going to knit up. It kind of looks like it might be self-striping, because I don't see any sort of patterning going on with it, and I can see that there are definitely sort of clusters of yarns going together. So I'm guessing it's self-striping. So perhaps some summer shorty socks. I still wear my fingering weight socks in the summertime when I'm wearing my Converse or my boots, and it might just be good to have a pair of cotton, sort of mainly cotton socks as well. So I'll give those a go probably once I finish my mum's socks. I have also ordered some yarn, and it's for a project that I've had on my to-do list for a couple of years now, and I think I probably spoke about it at least on 2 occasions, because it's something that I'm definitely keen to try, and I popped it on my 2016 yarn goals list. So it's from this book. Now this is called Lanka-Leikki. It's a book by Veera Välimäki, who's a well-known Finnish knitwear designer, and this book has also been released in English, and it is called Colour Wheel Knits, and it's put out by Cooperative Press, and it's also available as a Ravelry download in English for the whole book. So this is the Finnish version, and it looks like the names of the projects seem to be the same in the English version. I don't think they've been translated. But the project that I want to knit is this cardigan here. Oops, where am I? That side. It is called Taskutakki, which literally translates to pocket jacket. And so there's a picture. It's an open front cardigan, no buttons, but it has some pockets in there, and I like the fact that it's a little bit longer and I think that's probably the best photo of it. So I've ordered some yarn because it's been on my to-do list, and I figured that it was getting about time to get that one going. It probably means that it's going to be done just before the end of the year because there's a lot of knitting to go into that, but it'll then be something that I can wear next winter, so that's okay by me. The main thing is just to get it cast on and get a good chunk of it done this year, and then it'll be no rush. But I can't wait to show you the yarn that I've chosen for that when it arrives in the next week or two. I want to say thank you to those who provided some suggestions for worsted weight and DK weight yarns for the beanie pattern that I'm going to be working on. I had a look around and I did find myself some yarn. I ended up choosing a DK weight yarn, and it's an odd thing because the Corriedale that I was using, the length of it was equivalent to a DK weight, but the wraps per inch was equal to a worsted weight. So what I did was I had a look at some patterns or some projects on Ravelry, had a look at people who would use the same needle size as what I was planning to use, and sort of just had a look at the photos to see what their gauge looked like and whatnot. So I'm pretty confident that the yarn that I've ordered is going to work well for it, and it's going to be a colour that actually shows up the patterns. So I'll be working on that soon as well once I get that yarn in. And I'm going to have some more yarn turning up because yesterday I happily found out that I won second prize, not in a beauty contest. Sorry, that was a bit random. Wasn't it Monopoly or something? Anyway, I won second prize in Miss Click Clack's Tricolour Block Sock Cal knit along. So it was her wonderful, encouraging, inspiring, amazing. I can't say enough good words about the fun that she created with her knit along, which had people using 3 of her yarns to knit up a pair of socks, and the combinations of socks that people came up with were amazing. Lots of great colour choices, lots of great patterning ideas, and it was a lot of fun to take part in, and I was squealing when I saw in her group that I had won. So I've got 2 skeins of yarn coming soon and a project bag, and I can't wait to share those because they're going to be a lot of fun to use in the future. And then for the rest of it, I think I've just got a bit of chatter. So that was kind of the knitting chatter, and the next chatter is more life and a little bit of knitting and bits and pieces chatter. So if you're not interested, thank you very much for watching. I'm sure that in the coming weeks I'll have a lot more knitting to be able to show you, and hopefully get some spinning underway as well. I'd like to say hello to Peter from Dingo Dye Works over in Western Australia. Peter is an indie dyer, and she also has a podcast, and she mentioned me in her recent episode and was wondering how a Finnish person ends up in the central west of New South Wales, and also about sort of whether my Finnish background has influenced my knitting. So I've spent probably 2/3 of my life here in Australia. It was off and on for a very long time. So I have now ended up in the central west of New South Wales after spending many years in Sydney, and I think part of that is just wanting to have a bit of a change of pace in life, and I had the opportunity to house sit, so I'm doing that for a little while and trying to decide whether to stay out here. I have a feeling that I'm kind of enjoying life out here, so I think that I'll most likely be staying for longer than originally sort of scheduled as a trial. I'm originally from a little town. Admittedly, that one probably had about 8,000 people in it in Finland, and this one has a couple of hundred, so it's a little bit different, but I don't know, maybe it's just somehow inbuilt that I'm more of a small town kind of person. So I am about an hour away from Bathurst and Orange, which are two of the larger cities out in this area. And I had a look at a map, and it's not the greatest map, but where are we? So Sydney is up here, and it's about 4 hours drive west from Sydney, where I am. It's about 3 hours drive north from Canberra, that way. And Perth, where Peter is over here, and it's 37 hours drive over this way, and that's 37 hours without a rest break, so it's a fair distance away. One day I'll do it. I really want to go across the Nullarbor Plain, but I think I need to get more familiar with driving first before I attempt that. I have been to Perth once before for a couple of days, and it was a lovely place to visit, so I'd love to see it again, as well as a lot of the places along the way I think would be fascinating to see. As for Finnish handcrafts and what have you, I'm fascinated by them. I think because I haven't grown up there that much, it's something that is a bit hard for me to understand from afar. But a few years ago when I went over to Finland, I went to some of the handcraft museums where they display different types of handcrafts, as well as explaining the history and traditions that go into it. So a lot of different regions have got their own handcrafts, and it's something that I should probably dig into a little bit more myself, about the regions that my relatives are from. It can be a little bit complicated because of the history of Finland, wars that they've had, and how people have been displaced from where they were originally from. So I find it fascinating. I definitely want to learn more about it. But for instance, I have some things like this, which is a Finnish mitten book. This is one of my grandmother's, and this was published in 1948, and it has images of mittens from different regions. So for instance, there's some thrummed mittens with the yarn, showing the inside and the outside of the mitten, with the yarn tails which make it extra warm. And I have some other sort of more modern books which go into some of the regional variations, but they're the sorts of things that I do like poking around in. I find it a little bit hard at times because some of the language, especially with the older books, the words are incredibly long and it can take a bit of concentration, because I predominantly think in English, except if I've been sort of immersed in Finnish things. So when I go to Finland, my brain sort of switches over to thinking in Finnish, and if I watch Finnish podcasts, I start to think in Finnish, and if I'm working on Finnish patterns, I start to count and think in Finnish. But it just takes a little bit of effort to switch my brain over. So some of these books are a little bit hard for me to necessarily grasp onto, because it requires a fair bit of concentration. But they're things that when I have time I like to delve into and try to understand. But there is a lot of history and a lot of tradition in how Finnish people have made their handcrafts, so there's a lot to learn, but it is definitely something that I enjoy doing. Hopefully that kind of answers a bit of the questions. Other chatter then, the 1 year Podiversary giveaway is running in the Ravelry group, so if you haven't checked out last week's episode, have a look, and there's a question in there for you if you want to take part in the giveaway. I've been a bit busy with my Etsy shop, so there's been some new bags and DPN holders and pencil cases using fabrics that include dogs and cats and cows and bicycles and a few other things. So check them out if you're interested. I haven't had a lot of opportunities to take video this week, but I have sort of poked around in the garden a little bit and looked for what has been sort of emerging now that the weather has been getting a bit warmer. So I'll probably put in a few strange random videos of plants, and I think there was a millipede or something with lots and lots of legs anyway, will be popping in at the end. So I think that's pretty much it. Let me know if you are interested in taking part in a 2-colour knit along, or should it be a multicolour knit along, or what have you. So let me know your thoughts. I'd love to know. You can pop them either into the YouTube video comments or into the Ravelry group. That's it. Thank you very much for watching. I always appreciate your feedback and comments on these podcasts, and I hope that you're well and getting lots of crafting done, and I'll see you soon.